Okay, so in this episode, I want to talk about 10 foods or ingredients in food that I 100% will not and never consume, at least to my knowledge. This is something that I get asked a lot, like if we need to avoid certain foods or ingredients, what are like your top non-negotiables? So that's what I'm going to share today. Now, I live I would say 98% super holistic life. So most of the things that I'm consuming, I'm making sure that they are organic and there's zero added ingredients. Nothing's, toxic whatsoever. That being said, I will go out and have like the cleanest ice cream I can find, or I will go to a restaurant and eat a meal. So I can't control everything that is in the food I'm eating, especially when eating out. If these ingredients sneak in there, I can't control that. But what I do is I will sometimes make exceptions and I will allow like sugar into my diet and certain foods that I consider not healthy. I will sometimes have seed oils, although I try to avoid them like 98 to 99% of the time. So overall, I'm eating very holistic. I do make exceptions when I'm eating out and things like that here and there. It's not often. But even when eating out, there are certain foods that I'm like desperately trying to avoid. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that my diet's not perfect. And like I said, I am going to allow sugar sometimes. I'll allow some dairy and things like that I normally don't eat. But those I feel like my body can handle and metabolize. And I don't feel like a little bit here and there is going to cause detrimental effects to my health. Whereas the ingredients and foods that I'm about to share with you, I feel even if you were to have them in small amounts are quite substantially toxic and damaging. And so even if I'm having a quote unquote cheap meal where I'm going to go buy some ice cream from the store or I'm going to get some cleaner chips and have them, these are ingredients that if I see them there, I will not touch them. All right. I hope that clarifies and makes sense. There's a lot longer list than this of things that I avoid day to day, things that I forbid in my home, but these are the top 10 that I am 100% steering clear from. And I recommend everybody does if possible. I'm going to start off with nitrates or nitrites. These have been confirmed through countless studies. You can just go on PubMed and search that word and find so many studies that have confirmed that these do become carcinogenic once we ingest them. The way that they change in the stomach actually causes these ingredients to become cancer causing, and they can increase your risk of any type of cancer, but especially stomach cancer. They are toxic, and I do not feel that they need to be added to foods. I know that they are used as a preservative, especially in meat products, but I purchase meat products that do not contain them, whether it's like cold cuts or beef jerky or pepperettes or meat sticks or anything like that. People don't use them. Companies don't use them, and the products are perfect. They're healthy. They're clean. They taste great. So I have been told by companies that, oh, if you're not using nitrates or nitrites, then your meat is not healthy because it's not being preserved properly. I call BS to that. I do not believe that. I think that that's just something that they say to try to make people feel it's okay to consume these ingredients. It is not. And some of the people that are developing cancer, if you ask them what is in their diet, a big portion or staple of their diet are like cold meats, like cold cuts, sandwich meats or deli meats, and things like pepperettes, meats, beef jerky, kielbasa, and things like that. So you can buy these products without the nitrates and nitrites. I will never have them. Even if I go to a restaurant, I'm not ordering sausage. I'm not having those because I know that they are going to be added. So that's the first thing. The second thing are sodium and potassium benzoate. These are in a lot of products, a lot, even in supplements. So be careful. Anything that you find typically liquid, you're going to find these in very often. And I 100% will not touch these. These, again, have been shown to be quite toxic to our body, cancer causing. They also affect and really damage our liver, our gut, so many organs that I just don't need that in my life. And I don't think anyone else does. Again, they are quite toxic. So these are two ingredients that you will see in supplements, and supplement companies are going to tell you, because I've asked before, oh, it's in tiny amounts. It's not harmful. FDA's approved it. You need these in the product to help with the freshness or for the shelf life, so on and so forth. And again, I'm calling BS to that. If you are a supplement company and you are putting these in your product, you do not care about health, period, because the purpose of supplements should be to restore health. And if you're having even a little bit of something toxic, it's taking away from that goal. So to me, I just immediately lose trust or faith in that product or in that company. There were products that I was using, many times in my life that did not contain it. And then they did a formulation change. I'm not going to call out brands, but they did a formulation change and now those products contain it. And I immediately stopped using them. So look at the ingredient list. Sodium and potassium benzoates, highly toxic. Highly recommend we steer clear from those. I want to keep this podcast episode shorter. I've had a few people requesting that some episodes are, 10, 15 minutes versus 30 or more. So I'm not going to go into like all the science behind all these ingredients. If you guys want more in-depth detail on like nitrates or benzoates, things like that, I can definitely do an episode where I go into the research studies and show exactly what they do in our body and all of that. But the purpose of this is just to list off foods and not get into the nitty-gritty details of why I'm avoiding them. Now, the other thing that I highly avoid, I will not touch, is high fructose corn syrup. There is never a time where I will put this into my body. Again, countless research and articles and studies have come out showing over the past decade or so, showing the negative effects of high fructose corn syrup and the fact that it can cause fatty liver disease, liver cirrhosis, and all kinds of health issues because it is so concentrated with fructose and it's highly, highly modified and altered. So this is something that I will not touch. Most of the time it's in candies and like beverages, which we don't drink or consume in our home or when we're out. And if I am giving my kids some treats, I'm going to give them like a really clean candy that has like just simple ingredients for Halloween or Easter that does not contain any of this stuff. So there's never a time for us to need it. And I think that now in 2024, with so many incredible brands out there for everything under the sun that you can possibly want, they are not using high fructose corn syrup. And I think it's a very outdated sweetener. Obviously it's very cheap, which is why companies use it, but it's very outdated. And I think that there's so many alternatives we can be using today that are not going to quite literally kill us. And this is one of them. I just won't touch it and I will not let my kids have it either. It is unfortunately something I consumed in copious amounts when I was younger, not understanding the effects of it. And it did cause quite a bit of damage to my body. And so now moving forward, there's no way I will ever put that into my system or in my children. The next one are food dyes. These we avoid 100% of the time, unless again, we're not aware of it. If we're eating at a restaurant and somehow it's like into something, but at least to our knowledge, we are not ever having anything with food dyes. They are so toxic. Again, same thing. They affect our liver. They're destroying our gut and the beneficial organisms in our gut. They are causing toxicity within our cells, which any health issue that you have, especially chronic issues, come from mitochondrial dysfunction and cellular toxicity. So this is something we need to be very turned on to, especially if we have unfavorable genetics in our family. These are things that we don't want to be activated or turned on, and we have to be paying attention to our cellular health when it comes to that. So that's something we steer clear from as well. And again, there's so many candies and amazing companies that do not use food dyes anymore. Why are we using them? I'm not sure. There's so many natural alternatives that majority of companies are slowly switching to, which is awesome. But I think it's something that needs to actually be full out banned in North America. Carrageenan is another ingredient I will not touch. Again, countless studies have confirmed that the consumption of carrageenan over time can cause and lead to colon cancer. It is something that I think people are not super concerned about. They'll consume products that have it and think it's not the end of the world. But really, if you're having it, not even daily, but consistently, whether it's once a week or, throughout the month, it is enough to have these ill effects on our health. So why do we need it? We don't have it. Majority of natural products are moving away from carrageenan. So it's really becoming less and less prevalent in our food, but it's still there. And I do notice it in a lot of like yogurts and like, especially vegan items. They use it as like a thickening agent. And so I do notice it more in those types of products, but definitely something we do not need to have and should be running away from, especially that we know now it does cause colon cancer. MSG is a given, but that's something we will never, ever, ever touch. I highly recommend if you have not, you go and Google all of the different names for MSG because there are tons. So even if it doesn't say monosodium glutamate on your package, if it has any of the other forms of it, there's yeast extract and there's so many others, I would recommend steering clear of it. The only time we might accidentally have it again is when we're like going to a restaurant, we're getting some fast food, not that we ever have fast food ever, but I mean like going to a restaurant and we're having like some pasta or something from there that's even gluten-free. But if they're sneaking in things for flavoring, you're not going to know about it, maybe in a sauce, something like that. But we never buy it. if I read it on a package, I will put that package back. There's no way I will ever knowingly put that into my body. We know that it damages your brain. It increases your risk of Alzheimer's and so much more. And I know I'm talking quick here, guys. I'm sorry. I hope you're picking up what I'm saying. I'm just trying to get through this episode quickly and swiftly for those who want a shorter episode. But anyway, coming back to MSG, it causes chronic migraines, it causes liver issues, cellular toxicity, gut issues, and again, coming back to the brain, dementia, Alzheimer's, it's linked to memory issues and things like that. So why do we need this, or why are we consuming it? It should be something that is a high priority for our family to avoid, which for us it is. And I highly recommend for those of you who might still potentially be consuming it to be very careful. And somewhere where it's sneaking in a lot, which people aren't aware of, are actually like chicken stocks, those bouillon cubes. Even if it says quote unquote bone broth on the box, most of the time, if you read the back, it's going to be added as like a yeast extract or something. So chips will have it a lot. Just be super careful. It's not something that you should be having. And if you are sneaking it in here and there, it should be in a teeny amount and not frequent at all. GMOs are something that we also will avoid. Now, this is not an ingredient. It's I guess a food itself. But I will not consume anything that would be GMO, again, to my knowledge, unless I'm eating out at a restaurant and I'm not aware of things there. GMOs are very commonly, like you can get a list on Google of the common GMOs, so corn, even potatoes, things like that. I just will always buy organic. Soy, not that we have soy much at all, but if I were to buy like edamame beans, always organic. So anything that I know could potentially be modified, I will buy organic. But where I'm really watching GMOs are on the back of packages. So a lot of times you're going to see, like for a loaf of gluten-free bread, there's going to be modified cellulose. There's going to be modified cornstarch, modified potato starch, whatever it is. If you see the word modified, run as far away as you can. You do not need that in your body. We have seen now that it actually does alter our cells. It turns on different genetic SNPs. It is affecting our body at the cellular level, damaging our DNA, causing modifications within our cells. This is what leads to cancer. So highly recommend, again, avoiding that. Another thing that I avoid like the plague is moldy cheese specifically. There's a lot of, I don't really eat dairy ever in our home except a bit of grass-fed butter or some yogurt. But if I am to have a bit of cheese here or there, it will never be a moldy cheese. So if you see brie or blue cheese, anything with a mold coating or mold inside of it, you are ingesting that and you are putting that mold into your body, which is turning on and overexciting the immune system. It is damaging the beneficial microbes in the gut. It's elevating your histamine. The aflatoxins are highly toxic to the liver. It can cause fatty liver disease and all kinds of issues, highly toxic to our cells. We do not need that. And in my opinion, I know a lot of people love the taste of moldy cheeses. I think they're disgusting. So for me personally, it's easy to avoid. But if you are a person who loves your moldy cheese, I highly recommend finding an alternative that does not contain mold. So find a different cheese that you enjoy. Just try to move away or at least greatly limit the moldy cheeses. I can't stress enough the chemicals, the aflatoxins that are in mold that will damage the liver and the gut so immensely and elevate your oxalate levels and everything else in the body. The last one I'm going to share today is titanium dioxide. This is in a lot of supplements. It's in a lot of foods. It's in a lot of everything really that we're consuming. Candies specifically, I highly recommend reading labels. And if you see it in there, do not use it. It's different if it's in a skincare. It's not absorbing as much through the skin than if you're actually ingesting it. So if it's in a food item, it should not be consumed. It is so damaging to the liver, to the kidneys, to our cells, to our thyroid and other endocrine organs, and to our brain. So these types of chemicals will sit in our system for a long time and just create constant damage. And this is how cancer forms. If there's constantly something that's elevating your inflammation, that's driving inflammation, driving cellular death, and creating these carcinogens and this constant low-grade inflammation, this is how cancer forms and develops. It affects our immune system more than you can even imagine, and our immune system loses its ability to push back against cancer cells, or the cells that are mutating within our body in a negative way are multiplying more quickly than our immune system can handle. So this is not something that we want to be taking lightly, especially in a time where cancer is higher than it's ever been. And we really, really need to be reassessing what we're putting into our body. We can't control every single thing. We can't control environmental pollution. We cannot control the food that's being sprayed, even if it's organic. What we can control is adding added chemicals to our body that we really don't need. And again, in 2024, when there are an abundance, especially in North America, of clean products and foods and alternatives, we can really start saying no to these toxic companies and saying yes to the more natural ones, even if it's a little bit of a higher price point. And this is going to show people show companies what people actually want and what they don't want. And it's so important to just prioritize the health of you, your family, because you get one body. There's no second chance at this. This is it. Now, obviously, we can all still end up going out with cancer, but then at least you can say, I did my best. I lived my life as good as I could. I honored my body as much as I could. If I still got cancer, if God still wanted that path for me, there's nothing we are going to do to change it, but at least we did try our best. So that's all we can do. Those are some of the foods that I avoid. There's a huge list, but those are some main ones. Obviously, the things can go on like BPAs and BPS and everything else, but I thought that would be a good starting point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I hope you found it educational. If you want more info on these foods, if you want me to go more in depth, just let me know and I can always do a part 2 or a separate, episode altogether going into more detail of the research articles and what they found with these different ingredients. But I hope you have a beautiful day or night wherever you are listening from, and I'll talk to you in the next episode.